Well, welcome everyone. Please mute yourselves if you can. We'll definitely be taking questions at the back end, but I'm Lisa Noble, the advisor for finance consulting and entrepreneurship. And tonight, as you know, we're all eager with anticipation to hear from Ruthie Davis, class of '83, who's our original Bowdoin baddie, an English and visual arts double major, an alpine skier, and so very much more. Will tell us about what it is like to build a powerful brand and how to help women feel powerful in the things that you do and build things that people really love. So I'm going to be turning things over to Alex Blackwell and Austria Morehouse from our Innovation and Entrepreneurship Club to do the interviewing. But thank you so much for your spending your time tonight. Hopefully you'll all come away with inspiration and fresh ideas. With no further ado, take it away, Austria and Alex.
All right, so I figured we'd start right at the top. First of all, thank you so much for joining us today. We want to know when your fascination with shoes began. Did you enter Bowdoin with any idea that you would one day run a luxury high fashion shoe company?
No, zero idea of that. Absolutely not. I loved shoes and I loved my outfits and I loved fashion. But had no idea that I'd be a shoe designer. It was the farthest thing from my mind.
So you studied visual arts and English, is that right, at Bowdoin?
Correct, yep.
And did you know you would go in studying those things? And how did you come to pursue them throughout 4 years here?
I think that I was drawn to be an English major because I always liked communications, like communicating, marketing kind of a thing. And that was, I thought, the closest thing to that. I thought initially that I was a big athlete. So my whole thing, like at Bowdoin, I love sports, tennis, squash, skiing. And so I thought I wanted to be a sports journalist. So I'm like, I like English, I like writing, and I like sports. I'll bring those together. So that was my original idea. I also always loved creative things. So I loved the visual arts because I'm a very visual person. So I did watercolors, I did photography. Those are like my two favorite go-tos. So I was developing that muscle of visually creating things in addition to writing things. But yeah, so there was no shoes in that whole idea. So in the beginning.
Was
When you
fashion
were,
oh, go ahead.
go ahead, Ashley, go ahead.
I was going to ask, did fashion, did this play a part? When you were on the tennis team, did you look at people's outfits? Was this something you considered, or is that something you were aware of the whole time? Did you consider pursuing in conjunction with sports?
Absolutely. I was obsessed with my sports outfits. I used to say when I would go skiing, I thought it was a black tie event. Like everything had to be just so. So yes, I actually have pictures of me playing tennis at Bowdoin, and I would wear really, really cool tennis skirts. I used to wear a high ponytail with like a ribbon, like a purple ribbon that would match, the skirt, whatever in the skirt. I definitely had a hookup situation. And what I loved was the juxtaposition of being like a really good athlete. Like I was number 1 or 2, captain of the team, but yet I was like I dressed very kind of girly and fashiony, and people would just assume I wouldn't be that good on the court, and then I would beat them. So I was like, I like bringing these two things together. So I started really developing my personal style, and it really started with my sports shoes, equipment, outfits.
Do you think that like that interest in sports and like that like drive to be looking good on the court like really inspired a lot of how you move forward through your business, like that competitive nature, but also like looking at how you were designing shoes? Like were you looking for designing shoes for an athlete, or were you taking in your experiences of, I don't want to be on a hard court shoe on a hard tennis court, I'm going to bring in more comfort for the wear? Or like how did that experience and background shape?
It totally played into it. Again, at the time, and this is what I want to instill in everybody listening here tonight. You don't have to know right now what you're going to be. I had no idea I was going to be a shoe designer, okay? But I did know that I loved certain things and I had passion about certain things, and I pursued it. And I loved, like I said, the sporting thing. And I loved the way being in a good outfit made me feel confident on the court, confident on the slopes. I knew the importance of the right cleats when you're running on the field, and, you know, feeling that everything fit properly gave you the power, gave you the strength. I understood that feeling of excitement when you're like performing as an athlete, and part of that performance is the total package and how you present yourself. So I really loved that excitement, that feeling, and I understood how the right outfit, the right shoes could transform you. You know, and I always say that I think ski boots were really a big thing for me. I understood I was really, you know, you had to have every year, like I was obsessed with getting the newest buckle boots. This was back, I'm old, so like, you know, when I was little, they had lace-up boots, okay? So it was really a big deal when it was like a mono buckle, and, you know, they just got, you know what, the boots make you taller, the ski boots. Someone has their thing not on.
Where are you?
Anyway, so I used to love how the ski boots would prop you up and give you that like height. Okay, and that was, again, you know, my shoes are very high today. I have shoes that almost look like a ski boot. I do these wedge sneakers that look kind of like a ski boot. And so that whole feeling, it's a great point, Alex. It did start to, I was working on that whole idea, and I didn't even really know it. I just knew that I was doing something that excited me and I wanted to pursue.
Do you think that like interest helped the pivot, and especially like you wanted to be in like sports or like that communications world? Do you think having passion and interest in the sneakers helped that pivot be easier and less? I think it was for sure very scary, but do you think that pivot was a more comfortable feeling because you were working in a space that you had knowledge, you were using it, you had fun, you were interested? Do you think that that helped?
Yes, it's the authenticity. If you want to do something, you know, there has to be that authentic connection that you've developed and honed over the years. And I think it's important to realize you don't need to know exactly what that thing is now. A lot of people are afraid to be sort of entrepreneurial because they like, oh, I don't know what I want to do or what my passion is. I can't figure it out. If you like ice cream, start there, okay? Like, you can start small and just build on it. So another example, like, okay, I liked my Bowdoin outfits. I liked this. I told you I liked writing. So I started working for the Bowdoin Orient. I did sports writing, but I started my own column. Again, I was thinking entrepreneurial. I like to put the Ruthie Davis stamp on things. I've always been driven to do that. And so I kind of like to do my own little special thing. So I didn't just want to be a sports writer. I wanted my own column, okay? And I called it Mainly Health, like spelt like the state. And it was kind of a health and fitness column. It was like health tips. And, you know, this was back in the 80s when this whole health and fitness thing was the new buzz. It was people hadn't really been into health and fitness before. So this was cutting edge stuff. I would talk about eating bananas for potassium, and, you know, before your events. And I mean, I have these cute columns I did. So again, that was me practicing this idea of what's this brand, what's the Ruthie brand, what am I doing? I also got a job working, is it called the Tontine Mall, they used to call it? There's a mall, okay, my God, I just remembered that name, I can't even believe it. I had a job at the Tontine Mall working at like a ski shop, and selling like women's ski jackets and stuff, because then I got a discount. And so I got things a better price so I could look fly. But, you know, again, that was just sort of practicing like as a business. I liked the idea of shop. I liked selling, you know, fashion. So again, I didn't know I would have my own brand someday. I did that. You know, I was always doing things that could, you know, lead potentially. And then my senior year, I actually took a junior, I guess I did it yeah, I think it was my senior year. My second semester, my junior year, I went to University of Colorado at Boulder. And I did like an exchange thing or whatever. And out there I got out, this was when, again, the West Coast was a little bit ahead of the East Coast on fitness, you know, the West Coast thing. So I got certified in aerobics out there. And then that summer I came back and I was an aerobics instructor for the summer. And I emailed, we didn't have email. I think I wrote a letter to the head of the athletic department at Bowdoin. And I said, you know, I had a proposal that I wanted to start an aerobics program at Bowdoin. And he was like, okay, well, let's have a meeting about it. And so I remember I went in his office and I had a whole thing, and like, they basically said yes. And I was like paid. It was like a business thing. And I taught co-ed aerobics at 9 o'clock at night. I think it was like 8 or 9 at night. It was like after study hall. I mean, I had football players. I have pictures of me teaching this class. It was the craziest thing you've ever seen. It was in the gym. I had a big boom box and I taught aerobics, and no one up there was doing aerobics. So, and actually after I left, they kept the program going. And I saw someone one day on the street with like this big sweatshirt that said Bowdoin Aerobics. I was like, I started that. What are you doing? So they kept it going. So you see how these are all things that just kind of easily, and you know, the aerobics thing also came because as a tennis player, I realized like, what can I do to, you know, I kind of realized I need to supplement to be like, number one, I need to be in really good shape. I need to jog. I need to do stretching. I need to do aerobics. And that's when I started doing the aerobics.
So like I keep hearing a common theme in what you're talking about of like finding spaces and like trying to put your stamp on it, but also just start people looking at that space. How do you think when you're moving now into your business, you kept
Yeah.
innovating? How did you keep finding spaces to jump into and creating products to fit those markets?
Great question. And it's a really important, if you're an entrepreneur, you've got to be fluid. You've got to be flexible. You've got to be willing to evolve and learn. And you've got to like, I know a question people ask me a lot is, how do you stay passionate? Like, how do you keep the energy? And I keep it because I'm constantly changing and growing and learning and trying new things, which means failing. By the way, they don't all work. Everything I try, every shoe I create, every business idea, but I get excited by learning and trying new things. And so I do think that that's, you know, you've got to kind of have that mindset if you want to be entrepreneurial. You got to be willing to take a little bit of a risk and put yourself out there and get excited about it. And you know, don't take yourself so seriously. Give it a shot. In other words, be cheesy, okay? Mainly health, a column, it was a little cheesy. Aerobics program, some people could say that's stupid, you know, but you know, give it a shot because you're developing your personal brand.
I mean, it's clear that you took so many different steps, and it was a journey from being at Bowdoin in order to getting where you are now. And you were able to use your ability to confidently brand yourself and scale that to be something huge. So I guess I'm curious, how did your priorities and values change over time in order to cater to an evolving lifestyle and an evolving business? And also, how did you scale your skills to apply them to where you're at right now? You know, how did you do it essentially?
So which part? Okay, this is a big question. So,
Yeah.
so in other words, you want to know how I got from like Bowdoin to actually where I am today?
Like, what steps did you feel like you had to take, and how did you continue to maintain your own values and kind of who you were throughout that whole journey, still branding yourself, still maintaining motivation?
I mean, it's a very, again, if you look back, I mean, I have a long history, you know, we could spend way too much time going over each of the steps because again, I've done a lot, but let's try to condense it. You know, I just kind of put one foot in front of the other and just tried to innovate, try things at each stage, and it led to the next and the next and the next. So, you know, I could quickly say, like, for example, first job coming out of Bowdoin, I graduated in 84 and I worked for ABC Sports at the 84 Olympics. I got an internship that summer out in Los Angeles. That led to working for the Hartford Courant newspaper in Connecticut, where I'm from, as a sports writer. But I put an interesting spin on that, which, you know, let's not get off on a tangent, but similar to the Mainly Health, like I did, you know, I had my own beat, if you will. And that led to working at ESPN, where I thought maybe I'll be an on-air person. Because again, the communications, the production, you know, all of that excited me, which led to, I worked for SportsCenter and then wanted to be on air. And then that led to working for a local channel. So I went to Cape Cod, Martha's Vineyard. They have TV 58, I think it's called. And I did like my own thing there, like kind of a sports reporter, health and fitness, all of that stuff. And that led to the aerobic studio, because I started taking personal clients like Carly Simon and celebrities. I was their personal trainer, which then I opened my own business, which led to getting an MBA at Babson, because I did it for like a couple of years and was doing really well and wanted to expand and felt I needed more like numbers, finance type information to do it well by myself. So that led to Babson. And then day before graduation from my MBA, I had an interview lined up at Reebok through a connection. I also had an interview at Gatorade lined up, and there was another one, the NBA Association. Those were the 3 interviews: Reebok, Gatorade, and NBA Association. Reebok was the first one, day before graduation, and they made me an offer that day. And I said yes. And it was to be associate product manager in the walking division at Reebok. You know, they saw MBA, she's done walking and aerobics videos. Let's hire her ASAP. Okay, they were like, we like that combo. You know, I was like an aerobics instructor with an MBA. Okay, that was a little bit unusual. So again, I'm giving you the path. It's all like, now I'm in shoes. I'm at Reebok. Okay. Was there for 7 years, ended being director of Reebok Classic, the largest division they have, which is the fashion Reeboks. So my whole thing was putting fashion into sport. Oh, we're back to Bowdoin, her outfits on the tennis court, aren't we? So then I did that, which led to Uggs, because Uggs said, oh, wow, can you do what you did for the Reebok Classic and dial it up and make it more fashion and cool? Because I was at Reebok in the 90s, and you guys are wearing the shoes I designed from the 90s now. Those are ones I did back in the 90s. Like the cool Reeboks now was from me back then. But
The
in any
Club
event,
85s.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so Uggs said, can you do for UGG what you did with the Reebok Classic and make Uggs fashion? And this was when nobody was wearing Uggs except surfers on the West Coast. I was the first marketing person, first East Coast person they ever hired. And it took 3 years. And I don't know how old you all are, but like when Uggs took off in like 2000, that was my whole marketing plan and our whole thing, that they put a budget against it. So basically that led to Uggs, which then led to Tommy Hilfiger, which, you know, in the back of my mind, I had been planning the Ruthie Davis brand all through all those jobs. And then it wasn't until working at, you know, I moved back to the East Coast, to New York City, to do the Tommy Hilfiger footwear. And my husband one day between trips basically said, can I check in with you really quick? It's like, yeah, I'm busy. I got to pack. I got to unpack. It was like crazy job. Is your dream, he said, I just want to check in with you. Is your dream to be like president of Tommy Hilfiger footwear, or to be Tommy Hilfiger? And I was like, Tommy Hilfiger? And he's like, hate to break the news to you, but you're not getting any younger. You better like get busy with it. So that's when I made plans to leave Tommy to start Ruthie. So And I was very fortunate, long story, but they kept me on as a consultant, so I was able to have a job while I launched Ruthie. But it was really that, if you could see, and then all of a sudden I'm launching Ruthie, which when I started the Ruthie Davis brand, my whole thing behind it was, I used to say, imagine a Manolo Blahnik and a Nike had a baby. What would it look like? So I used to call it high tech, high fashion. And, you know, I have many stories, and it's again, a whole other Zoom about that, but I did, it was very literal in the beginning. I had graphite heels, I had a titanium wedge. I had, you know, I could show you some of my original collection. They're really cool. I should have had props for you tonight, but, so there was a whole thing, this whole kind of concept of making the dress shoe be more like my Nike, more like exciting, like a sports shoe. And that was that special coming together that I really, really liked. And the marketplace loved it. So they loved because I was innovating. Nobody was kind of doing, and again, this was 2006. You know, we didn't have brands like Off-White or like a lot of the cool hip hop brands you have now, a lot of the fashion sport type stuff. There was hardly anyone doing that back then. And so it was something that the buyers, you know, I was trying to sell my brand in Bloomingdale's and Saks, and, you know, they resonated. Wow, we haven't seen this.
Like
So-
something that I keep hearing is you are working at so many different brands and bringing that like East Coast and trying to connect the coasts. And do you think that your goal was to keep finding ways to innovate whatever job you were in, or were you trying to build like skills piece from Tommy, pieces from UGG, and combine them into your own? And was it like a culmination, or do you think that in each job you kind of were playing the role of I'm targeting for Reeboks to be cool, I'm targeting for Uggs to change and become,
Yes.
I mean, I own Uggs. Like,
Yeah,
I'm sure you weren't planning on men wearing Uggs when you
yeah,
were really
exactly.
starting. Like, I feel like there's so much innovation in each role, but do you think you were combining those things that you were learning from each job, or was it you're in the role and you have to keep innovating in that space?
I think those are interesting questions, and I commend you for thinking like that. It's a great way to be thinking of this. It's really interesting. I think for me, primarily because I'm a really hard worker and I really want to do a good job. And I think first and foremost, I innovated within the context of that brand. I did the best I could for UGG, the best I could for Tommy. You know, at Tommy, I launched Tommy Girl shoes. They never had Tommy Girl, which were a little younger, funner, hipper. So I was always doing that first. Okay, so secondly, of course, I was learning by doing that. I got so many great experiences. It gave me confidence. It made me it was really more learning the skill of like how to take this situation and make the most of it and make it better and create something unique. So I was really honing that skill and ability that I could then apply to myself. I don't think I took ideas from the different places and kind of combined it for the Ruthie shoe, but I do think, of course, there may have been some of that, you know, because I was doing all kinds of stuff. I can't remember every idea in my head, but like, I think it was really more just figuring out how to do that thing like you're talking about where, and I think, you know, again, I want the takeaways for anybody listening tonight. You can start doing this right away. You can start figuring out and get excited by this. Go to bed tonight and go, oh my God, I'm pumped up. I'm going to start tomorrow. I'm going to like start figuring out how I take my situation, whatever you're doing now, your hobbies, your friends, your clubs, whatever it is, and I'm going to create my little special thing from it. You know, and what's my brand and how do I hone that brand and start practicing? It's like, you're not going to run a marathon if you don't train, right? And do the runs. How can you be an entrepreneur if you don't practice? You know, and you've got to practice. You can't right now, you're in school. You can't go and start a brand. You got to do it within the context of school. So like, what are the things there? Maybe, you know, there's things that you can do right with the campus, with the clubs, with the this, with the, you know, that you don't have to do it separately. And you can be practicing and building your resume.
If you were looking at an entrepreneur to hire, or when you're looking for interns, not necessarily you, but as a creative, do you
Yeah.
think that you are looking for those entrepreneurial minded people no matter the role? And do you think when you're pitching yourself to those jobs and like in that application process, you should try to show off those independent, critical thinking, constantly evolving skills into those jobs when you're interviewing and stuff like that?
Yes, I personally do. I mean, I've been corporate, you know, I've had corporate jobs, corporate roles. I've had to hire people, as well as now I've been in the more independent, I call it, you know, I'm an independent brand. So I've been in it from all angles, and I know that I think everybody can benefit from thinking creatively and uniquely and coming at it from an interesting angle and being thoughtful and being kind of having a full persona. You don't want to be a one note. And, you know, I think it's, you know, like I was saying, this person, I'm big on this personal brand concept. Like you can start right now, like you guys can see the back of my apartment. I mean, everything, you know, I love black. My shoes, I have, you know, this is my number one shoe. It's very architectural and sleek and minimal. And it's kind of like my apartment. And it's kind of like how I dress, and it's all the world of Ruthie, the brand, and, you know, my actions, how I act and how I treat people. That's part of your brand too. You know, I come from a place of, yes, I'm an upbeat person. If you ask people, they'll say, yeah, works really hard and she's really nice. You know, I try to be nice, like, because I want my brand to be nice. You know, I try to be humble. I like humble. Like, again, this is building your brand. Do you want to be your brand, you know, who you are is humble? Or so you got to think about the total package and start developing it right now. One thing that I think is really cool, I pulled this off because when I found this recently, I was going through some things. I don't know if you guys can see it, but this is a picture that I framed. And this is when I wanted to launch the Ruthie brand and create this brand, but I was still working at Tommy, and I just felt like I needed a corner of my apartment at the time. I got this table that's like mid-century modern, white with silver legs, and I put all the products on it that kind of represented my brand. It was almost like a mood board type of thing, okay? You know, like a Pinterest board. But I actually had items, like I had a graphite tennis racket. I had, you know, this was back when we didn't have iPods, we had these things. Do you remember those, Lisa? It was like titanium. I had like a Chanel sport bag, because Chanel was doing some cool Chanel sport. It's a Prada sport thing, but everything was like black with a red stripe. It was like, and this was a shoe. These are a couple shoes that I had designed that I had a friend make in Italy. So I kind of put it there just so I would have this tangible thing of my dream. That was my dream on that table. And you guys can create a dream table in your dorms, okay? Create a dream pinup board. Start to build it. It could be something small, but like that's how you build the dream. And then, like, I wish I had the brand new version of this shoe, which is with the photographer right now, is a black-white combo. You know, it basically would look great on this table, and it's my number one shoe. So it actually works. You know, it's what's that word that they use now? Where you like manifest. Yeah. There's something to that.
I think it also feels good to have people reassure you that your shoes are stylish and your aesthetic is a good, like, nice thing to look at and buy into.
Yeah.
I want to let Ash ask a question. I've been slamming you with a few, so.
Well, I mean, I'm curious how you formed a team and a group of people around yourself that thought like you, that were like-minded, that shared the same kind of passion, how you chose these people and how you aligned yourself with a small team that worked for you.
You know, it's evolved a lot. And this was that original thing that I said, like my brand has taken many different shapes and forms over the years. So I've always picked people with high energy. Like you said, Alex, you know, I looked for someone who was thought unique, you know, had independent thoughts and was confident and a nice person and a go-getter. I like a go-getter. And I think just, I don't know, I had a knack for the type of people that I'd be drawn to. And I had a small team, so I didn't have to constantly be hiring people. But I've always believed that you can be friends with the people you work with. There's some theories about that. I'm not a corporation, so I'm speaking for an independent, smaller brand. You can be friends with the people. And I think when you have a small team, you kind of have to be. And you have to like totally mutually respect each other and work, you know, and it can't be the kind of thing where when the boss leaves, everybody's ragging on the boss. Because it's when it's this small, it just doesn't work out that way. You know?
I guess I'm also curious how you've maintained this role as a very creative person, as an artist, and also as a businesswoman. And so merging those two things together, is that something that you did throughout your work in corporate with other companies, or is that something that most came to fruition as you launched your company?
It's something I was doing at all of the other companies. I mean, I really started more on the business side at Reebok, and I kind of steered it more to the design side. And then when I went to UGG, I went in as VP of design, but design and marketing. They always would add on. Actually, at UGG, I was hired to be VP of design, and I'll never forget. I got out there and they put and marketing. They changed the title. So, and actually that happened at Tommy too. They hired me at Tommy to be, I think I was also VP of women's footwear and marketing. And then when I got there, they said, oh, and you're also in charge of men's footwear marketing. I'm like, okay, you know, so somehow I was a catch-all, but I did always like doing the left brain, right brain, bringing those two worlds together 100%. That was what made me unique. I'm not your typical designer. I mean, I'm in CFDA. I may be the only designer in CFDA with an MBA. I would put money on that. There might be one other, but like, I'm pretty sure I may be the only one. So it is an unusual combination, which I think is interesting. So anybody who's doing something, come up with that unusual combination is a great selling point.
You mind?
Something that
Oh, go ahead.
go.
Sorry, I had an internal question, but it's probably similar to, I was just going to ask you about your choice to go from selling through major, luxury stores to selling through your own brand direct to consumer, and what kind of business decision what was involved in that, making that transition?
It's like anything in life. I love the period when I was doing that. I was in 40 countries, hundreds of stores, global. I had a showroom in Milan, a showroom in LA, PR agency here, PR at Bi-Coastal, was in Bloomies, Neiman's, Bergdorf's, and it was crazy. It was really, really busy. I had an office. I had a bunch of people working for me, and it was great. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I'm glad I did it. It helped build the brand globally. I think with time, the world changed, okay? Sales changed. There were many reasons. So I had to evolve and ebb and flow. the whole, I mean, before really brands like mine couldn't sell direct to consumer. It really wasn't an option. All of a sudden that's an option. And so that's when I started, I'll be honest with you, the years when I was in all these fancy stores and all of this, I really wasn't making much profit. I mean, that's just a fact, okay? I was making a decent amount of money without getting into numbers, but I was spending that much money, if not more, okay? So there was no left, that was when for years I wasn't paying, didn't pay myself. In fashion is kind of unique for this, where, a lot of fashion brands are not profitable. Okay, and that's a whole nother podcast or whatever. But so, it looked good on paper, but, I got to a point where I was like, you know what, this is really hard. And I was traveling, going to Italy all the time to make the shoes, and it was just crazy. And I just, I got older, things evolved, the market evolved. COVID happened as an example where, that forced, I was already moving in this direction, but that put it on steroids to like be virtual, work from home, all of that. And that's when I was like, you know what? I'm in a stage in my life where this is actually really exciting to me. It was almost like starting over. I did that. Now I'm ready for this. I want to be, because I've always liked being cutting. I know this does sound a little egotistical, so I guess I'm not being humble, which I try to be. I've always felt like I was a little bit cutting edge. I always was like seeing the trends early. Okay. Like I was figuring, like I was onto Uggs before everybody was onto Uggs. Okay. Like, so I always was I was already moving in this sort of virtual. I used to do Instagrams, have laptop, my office is my laptop, and I would show it in a coffee bar, or I'll show it in Miami, and, wherever I go, that's my office. I was going in that direction already and thought, this is cool. This is the future. And when I started realizing I didn't need all these people, not that I had that many people, but it also, when I started forcing myself to do it myself, that was exciting because I was learning. And I liked the feeling of being independent and I can do everything. I don't need a graphic guy. I can do my website. I can do my social media. I can make the videos. I can edit the videos. And trust me, I've gotten pretty good at social media. I'm 60 years old or whatever. It might be over 60. I don't know. I'm just going to go with 60. I'm 60 years old. I'm pretty darn good at TikTok. Okay. Like I do it all. I do all the videos. I do all the nobody works for me for Instagram or TikTok. And I have like 300 and I don't know, 80,000 Instagram followers. So that's exciting to me to like force myself to learn these skills. If I was, so that's why I like this new model of like fewer people and me doing more. And oh, by the way, you make more money because you have to pay fewer people.
Yeah. One of my best friends in like fashion role model, his mom, Sarah White, if she was also in Neiman, she did purses and she went direct to consumer too. And I remember her saying that for her, setting aside the money, because I'm sure she wasn't talking to me about the money, but
Yeah.
I think that she was like much more happy being able to express what she was actually wanting artistically in what she was
That's
creating, but
so true.
also the advertising and like you were saying, the social media. I think she was less on the social media side, but I feel like that also gives you a more that direct to consumer is literally a direct to consumer. You are having that relationship with the consumer. And so I feel like you are
Yes.
producing more for the consumer. You're thinking about the consumer a lot
Yes.
more if you're taking it on individually.
No, I think that's 100%. And that's the thing. It's exciting. It connects you closer and it gives you a lot more control. It's very hard when you're working through these retailers because they tell you what they want, what they don't want. They make you change your design. They think they know better. A lot of red tape to get through, meetings, all of that. Whereas now I could just focus on the shoes and my customer. And so that to me is very exciting. I think another really key point I want to make is, the definition of success. my definition of success has evolved and changed. And success is not just your status, your money, things like this. It's success is whatever your value system is. I'm at a stage in my life where I value control of my life. I value being flexible. Like I want to go where I want, when I want. I don't want to be tied to an office and tied to a big staff of people that I have to manage. Okay. That's just me. Now, someone else may like that and think that's great. I personally don't want that right now. I like the flexibility of being just doing RuthieDavis.com. It's a smaller footprint in a way, but it's a manageable footprint and it excites me that way. And to me, it's like high tech, high fashion. It's, you know, the future of fashion. And, you know, I get to be out there and look at, you know, the influencers. I'm almost becoming an influencer. I mean, there's a huge trend now, which I'm super excited about, which is like 60 and fabulous, you know, these are like TikTok trends that you can, you know, you don't have to get old just because you're 60. So, you know, there's a whole new thing I'm doing now where I'm actually putting myself in videos and people want to hear about the journey and what it's like and, you know, all of that. So it's, to me, my definition of success, I'm just proud of myself that my company's still standing, that I love what I do every day, that I'm making a profit, that people respect the brand. I have people that love the brand. And I think it's cool. Like, to me, I don't need to be the next Louboutin. Do people recognize my name like Tory Burch? No. Am I like in Vogue every week? No. But are there people in the fashion industry that know Ruthie Davis shoes and like give me props? Yes. I would rather that because, you know, I like it manageable. I'm not someone, you know, I don't want a McMansion. I'd rather have a small, cool apartment. So it's again, the personal, this is figuring out what's important to you. If you're like me and it's not important to you to be this huge, you know, gazillionaire, you know, whatever, then maybe don't put so much pressure on yourself. And you don't need to come up with this, you know, you don't need to be this huge brand or huge, you know, finance person, you know, you can carve out your own niche.
With you speaking about that, I think that for some people on this call, like I consider myself a creative person, but not a creative where I'm designing and stuff like that. But what advice would you give to somebody who doesn't necessarily want to be a designer or have their own brand, but be involved and be like play a big role in a company where you don't necessarily aren't playing the role of the designer, but want to promote that you are creative, want to promote that you're a hard worker? How would you recommend getting that across in those interviews?
Well, I would love to meet those people are my favorite people, by the way. If any of you are listening and that's you, God love you. Like, be you. We need more of that. We need that. Not everybody can be the designer. You need the team of people. You need your core. I do a lot by myself, but I have my handful. I have a core team of people that I rely on that are like so important and they're everything. So, and it's important to me that they have a good eye. I have people that I work with that are not designers at all, but I get their input, you know, and they need to understand design and appreciate design and understand the process. So you can still learn these ideas. So if someone's listening tonight that's like, oh, I could never design, I'm not creative, it's not my thing at all, you should still do what I'm saying. Do a mood board, figure out, look in magazines or whatever on your phone. What do you like? What do you not like? What type of clothing do you like? Do you like the, you know, which trends do you speak to you? Like, it's good to figure out. Don't be like, put a wall up. Like I want to have nothing to do with that. You know, that's not good. I don't think in this day and age you could do that. I always say to people, like, I'm in fashion, right? So people are always, you know, and I do like high heels. So there's some people out there that were just like, you know, people that are like doing big careers in, you know, medical or lawyers or whatever, that it's a little bit, oh, that's, you know, that's too fashiony. You know, I'm doing a real job, you know, I'm doing more serious stuff. And like, I don't pay attention to where I put on my Patagonia and I'm good, you know? And it's like, I think that's very that's very like, I don't care who you are, what you do, you should have a sense of style. I mean, go to Italy. Everybody has a sense of style. They could be the accountant. The accountant's dressing well. It's not like some frivolous thing. It's how you're presenting yourself. And that's my whole thing with the question about empowering women and all that. I don't design my shoes to make a woman look sexy and hot, whatever. I design my shoes for the woman to feel powerful and feel good. And women historically are shorter than men. Okay, if you took the average women and men, women are shorter. My shoes, you get to see eye to eye with the guy. And there's a lot of women who are very short, you know, they just happen to be short, you know, so it really helps them, like the 5 feet woman, you know, women who are under 5 feet. So it's like, it's about empowering you to feel good and feel strong. And your outfits, I don't care if you're an accountant, I don't care what you are, don't think that that's not for me. I'm not a fashion person. I think those days are done. If you're not the total package, you got to have it all. And fashion's part of the thing.
I think that's incredible. It's actually really nice to hear that, because I feel like it's not talked about that often. So thank you. I got a note from Lisa. We should probably turn this over to everyone else in the call if anybody had any questions they were dying to ask. So total open forum here as well.
Awesome. Sorry, I talked too long. My bad.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I'm excited.
Anybody here? Anything you'd like to ask?
Go ahead, Jonathan.
Hi, thanks so much, Ruthie. I'm just wondering, so, you know, a big question that has to do with entrepreneurship is timing. And I think that a lot of people are afraid to take that dive because they're afraid that it's not the right time for them to do it yet, or there will be a better time somehow. And, you know, when you took that dive, did you have any like doubts about if it was the right time, or were you like really confident that you felt like it was right?
I think that I had done a lot so that when I actually launched the brand, I mean, it was like now or never in a way. Because I mean, again, I was like 38 years old. I mean, I wasn't like 20 something at that point. But I was going to launch the brand when I was out at Uggs. I was planning to do it then. And then, you know, I created a sample collection and the timing didn't work out. I got this opportunity at Tommy Hilfiger and I thought, you know what, this will be good for me to learn working for a fashion brand in New York, and I'll make connections. It'll be good for the brand. So then I put it on ice for a while. Okay. So you do have to do a little bit of that, but I do think you're never going to be 100% sure when you do something, and you have to just evolve it and go with it. And you can't be afraid. And I don't think the timing is that critical. It's more that in your gut, you have the confidence to do it. That's where you need the timing. The timing is you need to mentally be ready to take a leap. It's not about, oh, this is the right time to do it for the product or the idea. Does that make sense? And if you do push yourself to maybe do it when it's not quite right, or they're not the right time, or you weren't quite ready, so what? Work with it, see what works, what doesn't, stop for a while, start it again later. You know, there's no rules on any of this. And I think that's important to remember. There's no rules. No right or
Thanks so
wrong.
much. That was really helpful.
Okay, good.
Other questions for those aspiring entrepreneurs? We have a number of them here.
I'm here for you. Anything?
Austria and I can shoot a couple out to get the ball rolling a little bit too. I think that
Please, definitely do.
that authenticity that you're describing of like being yourself, but also knowing your audience, knowing that and putting that trust in your own personal brand, I think is like the most impactful thing that I've heard today. I think that especially wanting to go into those spaces, you have to have confidence. I think when you're selling your idea, you're selling yourself, you're selling your hopes. I think that that confidence is like very important. And like, I think that you're describing that well, that authenticity is the most important thing that's going to help convince other people to buy into yours.
And nothing can build the confidence except you genuinely are confident because you've had experiences to get you to that point of confidence. And the only way you can get to that point of confidence is to have said yes to things, tried things, failed things, improved things, tried again. Like, and then you get to that point of knowing who you are and what you're good at. And, you don't need to be good at everything, figure out your niche, your angle. I always would say, like, in different jobs, in different situations, I'm good at where marketing and design intersect. I would tell people I didn't design in a vacuum. I would say, I'm not one of these shoe designers like Manolo Blahnik or Louboutin, who's like sitting on on a river and sketching this gorgeous shoe. Yeah, which God love them, by the way, major talents and amazing. I was never that. I designed to a product brief. What's the trend? Who's the customer? What's the problem I'm going to solve? What is it? I put all this in a blender and come out with it. It's like I have the marketing plan before I design the shoe. It's a totally different way of approaching it. But I didn't figure that out without all those things I did. The videos, the mainly health column, working here, working there. That got me to say, oh, Ruthie, you're good at this. You actually made a lot of money for Reebok because you took the classic Reebok, you did the ice out soles in the translucent colors and they sold through the roof. And like, you knew how to market it and And like, that's when I realized that's my thing. And that's when I realized, okay, this could be a brand.
I like it. Vivian, did you have a question? You took yourself off mute, not to call you out. Oops, sorry.
Oh, yeah. Hi, I'm just wondering, so right now in school, I don't, cause, I have ideas, but I don't know how to start. Do you just recommend just grabbing on every other opportunities that I do, although it's not, like very entrepreneur, and how, like, when would you say it will be a good time to, uh like sell yourself to the public? Like, how do you present yourself? Um like, do you say you're like very good at what you do, or do you stay humble? Like, how do you sell yourself to the investors or the
Yeah.
public? Yeah.
I've always been, this was a takeaway from I first learned at Reebok, where they had a big sign when you walked in the building, it said product is king. And I've always been very product focused, that, the product has to come first. So when I launched Ruthie Davis, nobody really knew. I launched the brand as Davis, not Ruthie Davis, just so you know. So it was called Davis. I wanted to be like Gucci, Prada, Chanel. So I was Davis, one word. And nobody knew who I was because I was behind the scenes. I wanted the shoes to be the star. And it wasn't until people really liking these cool shoes that were, high tech, high fashion, whatever. And I did have a PR agency that got them on Beyonce and Gaga and a bunch of people. And when the stylists and these celebrities found out that the designer was a woman, they were like, oh, wow, usually it's men designing these shoes. You know, again, Manolo Blahnik, Christian Louboutin, Giuseppe Zanotti, like the luxury shoe space is mostly men. They're like, a woman's designing this sexy hot shoe? Like, and they were like, you need to tell people that. And that's how, you know, eventually called it Ruthie Davis, because people wanted to know about me. But I kind of let them say, we want you to come out now. Now is time. You need to reveal who you are. So I think you don't want to put the cart before the horse. I don't know what kind of brand you're talking about or business, if it's a product, if it's a service. It depends on what you're trying to do, but I do think whatever that thing is, that should be number one. And then you're next closely behind it. But like, let's say your idea is a service thing or a nonprofit industry thing or whatever it is, like you got to make that thing really good on its own, not just because you're this great person. Unless you want to be a celebrity footwear
Thank
brand,
you.
just like, you know, the brand sells because, you know, the celebrity's name is on it.
That a lot. On Friday, we're going to be talking about product design and thinking about your customer, and that's really king. I love the fact that with your Ruthie Davis direct-to-consumer brand, you just became that much closer to your client base. And I would imagine that if you've had to raise capital or pitch VCs or private equity firms, I'm sure there are people who've been chasing you and trying to, you know, have a piece of your business over
yeah.
years. You know, but the fact that you, I mean, it's not that you've had multiple successes within a corporate context and you've been innovative all the way through, and that you really are at that intersection of design and product understanding and communications marketing, that makes it credible for you to be taking up the space too. So
And one just little quick point, I don't know where we are timing wise, tell me to shut up if we're done, but like one last point is you know, I think it's interesting that the customer is king in the sense of product is king, but the customer as well, or queen. And, you know, and the need in the market, you always, entrepreneurship is you have to find a need not being met in the marketplace and all that. And if you're a niche brand like mine, you know, you've got to find your niche. One thing that evolved, I didn't set out to make super high platform shoes, primarily sandals, like open toe. I mean, I have boots and things, but, and some cases colorful, whatever. However you would describe, that wasn't the original idea. The idea was this high tech, high fashion. My first collection had sneakers, it had flats, it had lower heels. Like I wasn't, but this just evolved with time because that's what the market wanted from me. And so as an example, even now, I have a lot of friends and family who are like, oh, I love your shoes, but they're too high. Can you make it this heel? Can you make it that? So I did the pointy pump. I did the this and that. And guess what? They didn't sell because nobody's buying a pointy pump from Ruthie. They're covered. They've got Manolo, they got Tory Burch or whomever. Like they don't need that from me. So part of your brand isn't just what you want, it's also what you're running a business and you've got to see what the market wants and what they want from you. And then you try to marry your vision with that. But it's kind of like, it's not like I'm wearing 5-inch heels every day. You know, I'm not just like a high heel girl, you know, it just evolved. And, you know, you talk to the guys who, and I always say, people are like, oh, do you wear your heels or how do you, they're so, and I say, well, do you think people who own like a candy company are eating candy all day, or someone makes baby food, they're, you know, they're adults. Like I have a product. That doesn't mean that, you know, people assume because I'm a woman, like it has to be exactly what I would wear, you know, but a lot of my shoes I wouldn't even wear. I am wearing them right now, by the way. I always do. When I do a Zoom, I like to be authentic. So
wow.
But so yeah, I think that's an important point to just remember that you don't, you know, you set out with an idea of a product, but then the market may be like, oh no, we don't need that. And you may have to tweak it to fit the market a little.
Than fair. Thank you. You have been so generous with your time. I really want to say how much we really appreciate having a rock star like you kind of kick off a series, and we cannot wait to have you on campus. Certainly, there's a lot more we can continue to learn. We look forward to all future engagement with you, but this will go a long way to getting our ideas sparked and figuring out who our authentic brand is, you know, and what assets we have, what we can uniquely carve out and marry to what the market has in mind. And hopefully Friday we'll be generating some fresh ideas and then testing them out on a VC who will also join you on the judging panel. So
That's
excited
super
for all of
exciting.
it.
Yeah, and I want to thank you guys for putting this together, and you two are really great questions. Very impressed with your, how you handled this whole thing and how it flowed. I think you did a great job, and I could just tell, I mean, not everybody had their picture showing on the Zoom, but having a good upbeat attitude to be an entrepreneur, you really have to be, oh, good, that's a nice face, thank you. You have to be, open and excited and friendly. Like that's part of, being an entrepreneur, because it's like, that's how you grow and evolve and become, people don't want to be around someone who's not that anyway, right? And so I think it's I like the feeling you guys are giving. So you're totally on the right track. I'm excited for you.
So much.
Thank you so much.
I remember wearing like the transparent Reeboks. I'm a big sneakerhead, and yeah, I have a lot of transparent soles. All like,
Oh yeah, those are
mean,
my ice out soles.
you know all the sneakers, but I was
Yeah,
very big into sneakers. So
yeah.
the translucent Jordan 5s,
Oh yeah.
clearly influenced by you, which is the coolest thing in the world to know. So
Oh, well, that's really exciting. I wanna follow your, your sneakerhead, whatever you're doing.
yep. You don't want to see how many shoes I have here. I have way too many shoes, and that's talking to a shoe designer. Like, my roommate is Noah, the one above us, and he knows I have way too many shoes here. So,
But
I
see,
just-
this is
it was all
good.
for the
This
fun.
is when you're giving a talk someday, when you're in my place, giving the talk to the students, you're going to talk about all those shoes you had when you were at Bowdoin and how you were figuring out your brand and what you liked. And I mean, you're doing it. You're doing it right now. So keep doing it.
Thank you.
I'm all about it.
Thank you so very much. Really appreciate all of your time and excited to figure out what's next. Hopefully we'll be presenting you with some amazing ideas to pitch, and there will be some valuable prizes to all those of you who do enter our idea pitch competition. We're hoping to spark ideas and take it from there. So
Okay, I'm excited for you all. Thank you for listening tonight, and I hope you do. I'm excited for your projects. This is going to be great.
it will be great. Thank you again. Lots of inspiration
so
tonight for
much.
sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
This
Have
was
a great
awesome.
night.
Bye-bye.
You too.
See you
Bye.
soon. Bye.